going on, guys? It's another edition of Time Out here on 24 Flix. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with my co-host, Mr. Chris Cove. How you doing this week, my friend?
I'm doing good, Pete. Look at you. You're coming out with a burst of energy. You're ready to go, man. Let's knock this out. Lots of news going on.
Lots of news going on. Of course, less than a week away from the NFL draft in Kansas City, so we'll definitely touch upon that. Jaelin Hurts with a big new deal here. We'll talk about that. What's also going on around the National Football League when it not only comes to the draft, the quarterbacks in this draft, but of course, other rumors involving running backs. We're also getting to the NBA playoffs, all that and much more here on Timeout on 24 Flix. So let's get to it, Chris.
Let's go.
Jaelin Hurts, a new contract, and listen to these numbers: $255 million contract and $179 million in guarantees. $110 million to sign his name, Jaelin Hurts. And here is a former second-round quarterback from Alabama. He transferred to Oklahoma. A lot of people didn't necessarily think he had a chance to start, but obviously the organization did. Even if they had Carson Wentz, they gave him the opportunity to start. It was bumpy at first, but he definitely has an MVP type of year, takes the Eagles all the way to the Super Bowl. And if not for that turnover before halftime and the defense completely being shut down when it comes to getting after Patrick Mahomes, we may be talking about Hurts as a Super Bowl quarterback. With all that being said, your thoughts on this big new contract by the Philadelphia Eagles, also becoming the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. Wow.
Wow, indeed. Hurts deserves it. He's put in the work. Philly didn't have pretty much of a choice at all of whether to pay him after having that other guy in there, man, Carson Wentz. He was garbage. So he got his chance. He bid his time, and he paid. He came through. He came through for the Eagles. Interesting contract that it's 5 years, a good length, 179 guaranteed, excellent, a 255 total. Someone else was looking for numbers around that area and still having trouble getting them. The difference with Hurts, he has an agent team that is all women, and they pulled this deal with the Eagles. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. And that's probably the reason why Jackson, and you're talking about Lamar Jackson, doesn't have a contract deal. And I kind of wonder, when Hurts signed this contract, what is it going to do to those contract negotiations between Jackson and the Ravens? What's it going to be for Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals? What's it going to be for Justin Herbert? How much does that market rise? And you look back at it, Chris, with the contract that Patrick Mahomes signed with the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was a relatively pretty good deal now looking at it. So the quarterback market is going to rise. Hurts absolutely deserves it. And you can't say enough about the Philadelphia Eagles and the job that they did providing the weapons around Hurts, going after A.J. Brown, trying to duplicate that effort of what the Buffalo Bills did for Josh Allen, getting Stephon Diggs, Kirk Cousins with Jefferson there. So that's the way you do it. That's the way you have to help your quarterback out. And I think Chicago's trying to do the same thing with Justin Fields and getting a DJ Moore from the Carolina Panthers. So at the end of the day, good for Hurts, good for the Philadelphia Eagles, bad for Cowboy fans.
Peter, just right off the bat, I'm going to give you a timeout for that.
Oh, we're going to give me time out?
Time out. That was totally unnecessary.
What? I'm just telling the truth here, Chris.
Hey, there's lots of truth that can be told. You don't have to go there.
Right.
Let's go to the next one. So kind of good news, interesting. I don't know if you ever would have thought this would have happened. I wouldn't. Damar Hamlin is fully cleared for football activity, and he's ready to return to the Bulls. He's already out there working out with the team. This is Damar that had that horrendous hit last year against the Bengals on a Monday night game, collapsed, heart actually stopped, and was in the hospital for quite a long time. Had the NFL really, everyone forgetting how dangerous and destructive the game is on players' bodies, and totally flipped it and made Damar a hero for his brevity and everything that he went through during that time. You never thought he was going to return to the field. Yet here he is, and he's ready to go.
Yeah, and I think it's an amazing thing, right? I mean, God is good at the end of the day. God bless him. God bless the Buffalo Bills. And it's going to be great to see the young man back in action. We'll definitely have to monitor the situation. But again, going back to it, what a scary situation it was, because he nearly died on the field. It's a miracle that he's even alive at the end of the day. And then coming back to play football, I think there's some fans out there that say, why would he do it? Well, the reason why he would do it is because he can and because he loves what he does at the end of the day. So all I can say is I hope it works out to his favor. It's a great story. It's kind of story that's going to fuel you to watch the NFL next year. That's the reason why we love the National Football League, because there's always storylines in the offseason, during the season, and, of course, during the postseason.
Absolutely.
With that being said, the draft is right around the corner. Now, there was a test out there that's kind of replaced the Wonderlic, and it's a lot of controversy right now because C.J. Stroud, who was looked upon as being the #1 overall pick for the Carolina Panthers, scored the lowest out of all the quarterbacks, something like 18%. So there's a lot of scouts out there. There's a lot of people in the media saying this could affect him, could affect his draft status. Now it's looking like Bryce Young could go #1 from Alabama for the Panthers. I mean, what do you make of it? Because at the end of the day, Stroud, his numbers don't lie, and he performed against the Georgia Bulldogs in the biggest effort against them and played very well. So I don't necessarily understand why he's not going #1 besides this test overall. I mean, if you're just taking that into account and you're not putting in all the other factors, his numbers, his measurables, 6'4", 230, what are we talking about here? In your opinion, do these teams deserve a timeout for making such a big deal about this test? Or is this a smokescreen to get somebody not to take him so another team can take him during the process?
Well, this is the fun part about this time of year, right? All kinds of smoke screens going out there. I mean, I have a mock draft sitting right in front of me, and it says C.J. Stroud, #1 pick, Ohio State with the Carolina Panthers. Then it says Bryce Young going to the Texans, and I look at his height, and he's 5'10". Sir, I am 5'8". And I go around basketball players covering the Orlando Magic and athletes, and I'm like a child around them. And this is what Bryce Young is going to be like around some of these linemen that are coming after him. So I would have to say, I still think CJ will be the #1 pick. Bryce has the skills. He knows how to get in the gaps in between the linemen and big men in front of him. But when it comes down to it, if you can see right over it at 6'3", I think you're going to have a lot more success. Russell Wilson, be damned. Hey, it's not working now, right? But I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see, but I'm pretty sure CJ is going first. That's who I would take if I was Charlotte.
Yeah, look, Chris, for every, Russell Wilson, there's always a story of Kyler Murray, right? He hasn't necessarily worked out, and if it wasn't for his size, Young would be the unanimous #1 pick. But it certainly seems like there's big-time questions. Going back to Stroud, he's got all the measurables. He can make all the throws. So you're kind of wondering. And then this follows up the other report out there by Adam Schefter, and take it for what it's worth because it is misinformation season, that the Houston Texans would consider not taking a quarterback.
Yeah.
Possibly go with Davis Mills, that supposedly they love Hooker, so they could get him at #12. I mean, what do you make of this situation? Are the Texans playing poker here with the other teams trying to get them to trade up into that spot because either they want to trade down, they want to accumulate more picks? I mean, what's going on with the Houston Texans? Do you know? I don't.
I know, and my editor is going to kill me because I keep doing this. Adam Schefter deserves a timeout.
Oh!
He is definitely being a pawn to the front offices of the Texans. They're taking CJ Stroud. Don't believe the hype. They desperately need a top-notch quarterback. This is smoke and mirrors, draft week smoke and mirrors. I mean, it's insane to believe that that's what the deal would be.
So, Chris, you think that the Carolina Panthers are going to take Bryce Young at #1, and then Stroud falls to #2, and the Texans are going to take him at number 2. You don't necessarily buy this nonsense that DeMeco Ryans, who's the new coach there, who, look, is a defensive-minded coach at the end of the day. And those guys are different because they believe in defense, running game. They don't necessarily believe in having a top-notch quarterback at the end of the day. And possibly Ryans could have gone to the Texans and say, you know what? Look at the San Francisco 49ers last year with Brock Purdy. He was, Mr. Irrelevant. We can get away with, drafting a guy lower down in the first or second round, or we can go with Davis Mills because I believe that I can build this defense and running game up. You don't necessarily think they're considering that?
No, and I think CJ, I misspoke. CJ is going to go to the Panthers. Bryce is going to go to the Texans. The key with San Francisco and Brock Purdy was they had that San Francisco defense that they had been building over the years, and it's grown and grown and grown over the past years to be the best in the NFL. The Texans are not going to be the best defense in the NFL this year. They better get that quarterback and that franchise quarterback in there with the quickness because they're going to need it.
Or you could draft Will Anderson or Jalen Carter, or you could trade out. So lots of intrigue on Thursday night. Of course, being shown on ESPN and NFL Network live from Kansas City. It's time out here on 24 Flix. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with my co-host, Mr. Chris Cuff, talking about the NFL draft. Now, I have a bet out there with some colleagues that Anthony Richardson will not only go top 5, top 10 with wings and steak. Would you get in on that bet? Would you bet against me? Do you think Anthony Richardson, who's looking like a highly touted quarterback, but lots of questions, all that potential, all that high ceiling, lots of questions about the young man. Would you take that bet? Do you think that Anthony Richardson falls out of the top 10? Or am I correct? Am I going to be eating wings and steak on that night of the draft after Richardson goes in that top 10? What do you say?
Well, make sure you get some extra sauce for those wings and steak because you're going to win that bet. Anthony is definitely going in the top 5. He blew people's minds at the combine, at his workout. You don't often hear that every year. I mean, he's running impossible 40 scores, passing the ball out of the building, and just has everything, the superior athletic talent. He just needs some development. Now, if you're the Colts, which I see him listed at a couple different places, he might be worth a shot. Also, I saw him with the Texans in one draft because they're developing the whole team. They have time to develop a quarterback. That would be a good spot for him as well. But superior athletes don't come every day. And I really think that he's going to go in the top 5. He needs to. He definitely should be in there.
I think you could definitely go top 5, and you have to watch number 3 there with the Arizona Cardinals. They've already got their quarterback. They're going to be fielding calls all night long. And those teams that want a quarterback like Richardson or want a quarterback like Will Levis or want a quarterback like a Hendon Hooker out there, they're definitely going to be calling. And if CJ Stroud somehow, some way gets past the Houston Texans, it is going to be complete mayhem at the end of the day. And I don't rule it out, the Houston Texans taking a Will Anderson. I mean, they've done this in the past, right? Not necessarily a quarterback, but Reggie Bush at the time was going to be supposedly the number 1 pick. And instead they go with Mario Williams, and you found out the day before the draft, which was shocking. So am I going to be shocked if they take a Jalen Carter or Will Anderson out of Alabama at number 2? Not necessarily. And I would be shocked if Richardson gets out of the top 10. Because at the end of the day, you could talk about what he doesn't have, but a lot of scouts see the high ceiling. They also see the 40 time. They see he can make all the throws. And possibly they say, you know what? Maybe he's a Josh Allen. He had 55, 56 completion percentage in college. Like Allen, maybe we can improve his footwork and get that better going forward. With that being said, anything else you're intrigued by in this draft coming up on Thursday night?
Well, of course, I'm curious to see what the Bucs are going to do. One of the couple of drafts I looked at, say Will Levis is going to go to the Bucs, so that's the development of their Brady rebuild project.
Right.
Time
I don't
to start over.
Think it's a Brady rebuild
Right.
at the end of the day. I still think they want to win and anticipate that they can win that NFC South. But I've seen the same mock drafts. I've also seen them, visiting with the Hendon Hooker, who could be out for the year. He's a 25-year-old rookie, but you look at his statistics overall, over 50 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions in his career. Any other given year, if it wasn't for the injury, he possibly could be in the conversation as a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud. And then Tristan Wirfs comes out this week and relays the message that not only is he working on the right side, but he's also working on the left side. So my question for you is, if Tristan Wirfs is going to be the left tackle, do you draft a right tackle or do you go with Luke Gedeke? I would say Gedeke, and this is why. Because remember, Jason Light drafted him second round last year. So you mean to tell me that Jason Light is going to give up on a second round pick? A lot of people would say Darnell Wright, the right tackle to Tennessee, that would be the perfect fit. It may be. But what if Bijan Robinson is on the board at 19? Could you pass up on him for an offensive lineman? What do you say, Chris?
I say if you think you got the talent in-house, build it. But you didn't see it last year. So I would absolutely bring in more talent. It's based on what their priority of need is. I mean, honestly, Brady got kind of beat up last year. Their performance got slowly better, but by then it was too late. So really, I think there's plenty of quarterbacks out there. So it's how they evaluated them at their workouts and see what they have. So I really am not sure which, but I would probably look at getting some new talent. Plus, you don't know who's going to be out there in the draft field and who's going to be out there that they pick up from somewhere else. Just lots of options there.
You're exactly right. And I always go back to 2017, and we're going to be talking about this man in just a moment. But a lot of people anticipated the Bucs would have a chance for Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook was on the board, but O.J. Howard fell right into their lap. And he was looked at as a top 10 selection. So they decided to take O.J. Howard to the chagrin of a lot of Bucs fans that I've talked to about it. And I felt like if you get a running game at that point, maybe it's different for Jameis Winston and the team going forward. With that being said, the Miami Dolphins could be trying to trade for Dalvin Cook, or Cook could be outright released by the Minnesota Vikings. What do you think of that prospect? Dalvin Cook and the Miami Dolphins. Look, I get it. The Bucs have Rashard White, but I would take Dalvin Cook in a heartbeat. I would have taken him in 2017, and I'll go this far. I felt like Jason Light deserved a timeout because he decided to listen to Dirk Cutter at the time because Cutter wanted O.J. Howard instead of Dalvin Cook. And, of course, the rest is history because Cook, when he's healthy, is one of the top young running backs, 6 years in the league. Of course, miles on those tires. But the Miami Dolphins, Dalvin Cook and the Miami Dolphins, how explosive could that offense be?
If he could stay in the field, it would be phenomenal. I mean, do they need more pieces like that? It's almost unfair. But, yeah, I'd love to see him there. But it's Cook every year. It's been his health. He's always hurt, man. He's been hurt since he stepped off the field for Florida State and stepped into Minnesota. When he's there, he's super effective. It's just the best availability. The best ability is availability, you know. But man, what a powerhouse that would be. Speaking of powerhouses, you dropped some news on me. I heard whisperings about the other powerhouse running back who carried Tennessee all the way into the playoffs, Derrick Henry. There's lots of sniffings going around about Derrick Henry. I heard that the Dolphins are sniffing around at Derrick Henry. And you told me what? What did you tell me?
There's a rumor out there that the Philadelphia Eagles could be interested in Henry. And, of course, they have been associated with the Texas running back Bijan Robinson. In fact, the Eagles and the Bucs, the only two official visits face-to-face. So it would make sense, depending on what you're going to give up for Henry and the Tennessee Titans, because it certainly seems like the Titans are ready to turn the page. So how dangerous and how lethal would Jaeln Hurts, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and a nightmare of a back in Derrick Henry? And I think, look, he's lost a step, right? He's not necessarily the same guy, but I still believe that if he were in that uniform with the Philadelphia Eagles on that team, that would be a scary situation. What do you say?
Very scary situation, man. Even him losing a step, he's still got plenty left. He's not going to break those 100-yard or 80, 60, 80-yard runs anymore, but he is going to bust through that line and get you chunks of yardage for sure. I do not want to see him in green. I do not.
Going back to Dalvin Cook here, because I got to mention it again. The reason why the Bucks didn't draft him is because supposedly he had some off the field stuff going on. So they felt like it would be better for him to get out of the state of Florida. Also, a lot of fans would say you don't draft a running back in the first round. So going back to Robinson, are you drafting him first round if he's there on the board? Or are you waiting for second, third round players? Some people would say, and it's been confirmed, Alvin Kamara went in the third round. Kareem Hunt went in the third round. Isaiah Pacheco, who was a big-time contributor for the Kansas City Chiefs, went 7th round last year. Are you a guy that's not necessarily going to draft a running back in the first round? You're going to wait for those later rounds? Or does it depend on the player if the guy is truly a playmaker like Robinson is from Texas?
Right. If Barry Sanders was available this year, would you take him in the first round, or would you wait? It's the same. I think that Bijan is the same thing. The opinions that we're having, people are just in love with Bijan, and they really think that he is something very, very special, and he will go in the first round. So I kind of agree. He's not the typical running back.
And also, your guy Zeke Elliott was what a first round pick for the Dallas Cowboys. You have Leonard Fournette, who won a Super Bowl. Even though it wasn't with the Jacksonville Jaguars, he was a first-round pick, of course, playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And speaking of a former first-round running back, Saquon Barkley is embroiled in a stalemate. He refused to sign his one-year, $10 million franchise tender, will not report to the offseason workouts, and hopes to getting a long-term contract with the club. Is this smart on his part at the end of the day to do this? Because the Giants can say, you know what, we want to turn the page on you, Saquon. We'll find your replacement later on in the draft.
It's really a trip, and it's a shame that things with running backs have come to this. Their value has just dropped. It's not what it used to be. Saquon is a phenomenal back, but the value of running backs has gone down. So there are other serviceable running backs that can come in and run the ball and get not all the yardage he can, but plenty of it. The problem was they had to either pay Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, or pay Saquon. They paid the quarterback, even though he's a middling quarterback, not top of the list in the field, but he is a serviceable quarterback that can get the ball down the field, and he runs. But it's Danny Dimes. He never. Hopefully, he got his interceptions down last year, so he is slowly improving. Saquon is top of the line running back, but if you can get a used car for the price of new, why not go for the used car that can get you almost as many miles?
Now I got to give you a time. The only reason why that offense was as good as it was not because of Danny Dimes and Daniel Jones with his 22 total touchdowns, 15 throwing at the end of the day. It was because of Saquon Barkley and his health. With that being said, he also has the same type of deal as Dalvin Cook. He can't stay healthy, but when he is healthy, that offense is different. So I understand he wants to get paid. He wants to get long-term, but you're exactly right, Chris. There's a lot of NFL teams out there that feel like they can get a running back in those later rounds, but I still think you deserve a timeout. And I think the Giants deserve a timeout for not getting this taken care of, because even they know that it's not Daniel Jones at the end of the day that runs that offense. It's Barkley.
Yeah.
With that being said, speaking of another quarterback, Tua says he mulled retiring, but how to fall. Tua also trained with a jiu-jitsu coach this offseason. He is still a white belt as of April, but said his experience has taught him how to distribute his weight and energy while falling. Do you have a problem with this? Because when a player usually considers retirement, it's a different mindset at the end of the day. So you also can't be afraid to get hit, but you got to get rid of the ball, and the Dolphins got to do a better job of putting something in front of you to help you out. So any concern here with Tua and his comments of possibly retiring from the National Football League?
Tons of concern. This is DeMar Hamlin all over again, even though his was sudden. It's the same thing. With Tua, I would say one more hit, one more concussion, That's it for him. And who knows what his health is going to be afterwards. It's just the desire to play. Yes, when you were tackled, you hit your head, hit the back of your head, and that's when you had your concussions. That's because a lineman threw you back and you hit your head. I don't know how you're going to fall with jiu-jitsu. Maybe he had the wires out there so he can kind of turn and fall, but
sweep the leg.
Sweep the leg.
Right. That's what
Exactly.
we need to do.
Exactly.
Had on timeout before. Yeah.
Tua's a great guy, man. He's really a great guy, and it's a shame, but this is what he trained all his life to do. If he thinks he has one more shot at it, it's his life, man. Let him try. I'm sure they're doing everything they can. I think the NFL has proved also new helmets that are more concussion safe for quarterbacks. So hopefully he gets into that, and maybe that'll help.
Now, when Tom Brady was asked about trying to start quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, he didn't rule it out. Didn't necessarily say he wanted to start for them, but he did say he had some friends on there. He'll be cheering for them. We've been through this before. Do you see Tom Brady possibly coming back if there is an injury? We even know in San Francisco that Brock Purdy may not play the whole year. There's also talk of Trey Lance being on the trading block, so you're going to go with Sam Darnold. I mean, are we ruling this out finally, even with these comments coming out that Tom Brady is officially done? Or has that door cracked open once again, Chris?
He's done, man. Everybody's looking for any little peak of light that he might come back. Dude is done. Leave him alone.
All right, good stuff here. We're on time. 24 Flix. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with my co-host, Mr. Chris Cuff. Now, the NFL suspended 5 players, including Lions 2022 first-round pick Jameson Williams for gambling violations. Now, it wasn't necessarily because he gambled on the NFL. He actually gambled on college sports, but he did it in the facility itself. So he deserves a timeout just for that. Now, with that being said, has the NFL kind of been hypocritical, if you will, because they've embraced the gambling aspect. They've embraced fantasy football and gone to Las Vegas with the Raiders. Should these players be suspended, or is it basically cut and dry, Chris, where you can't gamble on the league, you can't gamble altogether?
It's hypocritical because, I mean, DraftKings is everywhere. You can bet anything you want anywhere, but you can't bet in the team facility. I mean, Come on. But if that's the rule, that's the rule, you know? So that's it, cut and dry. If they want to change it, just like, you know, they're going soft on marijuana, go across the street to the Krispy Kreme and make your bets over there if you know that's the rule.
Yeah, there you go. Quintez Cephas and CJ Moore, Commanders defensive end, Shaka Toney and Stanley Berryhill were also suspended at least a year, where they were found to have gambling on NFL games. You know, once again, Jameson Williams was suspended only 6 games. Those suspended for the 6 games placed bets on college games, but from the facility. So don't bet in the facility. Go home somewhere. Or don't bet at all. In fact, Cephas and Moore, I believe, were cut by the Lions. Just like that, your job is over with because you decided to gamble in the first place. And look, I definitely think the NFL is somewhat hypocritical because they have embraced the gambling lifestyle. But with that being said, don't these NFL players make enough money where you don't necessarily have to gamble? I feel like I should give them a timeout. I mean, is it worth it? Is it worth the privilege to be in the National Football League, to gamble, to break the rules? You're going to get caught. They're always looking at it. Why do it in the first place? Ask Calvin Ridley of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Absolutely.
It cost him a year of his career. Now we'll see how that works out for the Jaguars, because he is a talented receiver when he could stay healthy.
For sure.
From gambling.
Yeah, these guys are just bored and looking for some juice, and they did something stupid, and they're going to pay for it. Simple.
You're bored? Go get another job. What do you mean you're bored? You're in the National Football League. You
play PlayStation.
Yeah. Go play video games like Kyler Murray, which has not necessarily worked out in his favor.
Once he studies his playbook.
Yeah, there you go. Well, he doesn't do that enough. That's the reason why he's probably really struggled. Too many video games, too much Call of Duty, not enough studying, if I can talk here, the playbook.
Absolutely.
Stuttering here. Eagles hire Matt Patricia as the senior defensive assistant. Of course, he was the offensive coordinator, which Bill Belichick and the Patriots deserved a timeout last year. The reason why the offense struggled and basically stunk. I mean, doesn't make any sense to make a defensive guy the offensive coordinator. It's not that easy, Bill.
Right.
So now he's a defensive assistant. What do we make of this situation there? Because I know Darius Slay is on the team. There was a little bit of commotion between both of those parties. A little bit of disappointment, I guess, by Slay and Patricia not really necessarily liking him. So how will this situation work out in that locker room and on this coaching staff for the Philadelphia Eagles going forward?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be salty feelings. You know how that goes. But I mean, senior defensive assistant, what does that mean, actually? You know, how involved is he going to be?
I mean, that's what he deserved. That's kind of job he deserves, is go getting somebody coffee with the offense for the Patriots. I mean, he single-handedly ruined Mac Jones. For the Patriots has to be the happiest man on earth because you don't have to work under that guy. And I think he's overrated. I think a lot of these coaches are overrated out of the Bill Belichick tree. I mean, what coach has been successful under Bill Belichick?
Exactly. From that tree.
Absolutely crickets. So
I love it.
how that works out. Josh McDaniels called. He's still trying to be a coach. More than likely, he'll be fired this year if it doesn't work out with the Las Vegas Raiders. I know you got some NBA playoffs.
Tons of NBA news. Okay, so we had another Draymond Green incident. He got in a tussle with Domantas Sabonis from the Kings, Sacramento Kings, who are killing it. They beat actually the Warriors 2 games. They're up 2-0 on the Warriors. The Warriors took one back last night in San Francisco. But in game 1, Sabonis was in a tussle with Draymond. Sabonis fell to the ground. Draymond was stepping over him. Sabonis grabbed his foot.
Right. So, why isn't he suspended? By the way, the Magic traded this guy. They should be suspended because he kind of turned out to be a good player. But you're exactly right, Chris. I mean, he grabbed his leg. How is he not suspended too? And I feel like, this is the attitude of Draymond Green coming back to haunt him. The NBA is trying to make him pay, but they should have been fair. And this assessment, and Green has seen his best days. There's a big-time question mark if he's going to return with the Warriors. If they get eliminated by the Sacramento Kings, who's going to pick up his option? Is he going to be with the Golden State Warriors? Is he going to get traded? What kind of value does he have? I mean, there's a lot of issues here to unpack, but in my opinion, you got to suspend both, and the NBA messed up on this.
Yeah, they only suspended Draymond for 1 game, game 3, but the Warriors gutted it out, and they won game 3. It was the first game at home. They're a dynamic team at home, so everything worked out. Now, we got a ton of injuries during the playoffs to key players. Kawhi Leonard, sprained knee. Joel Embiid, sprained knee. Giannis fell straight on his tailbone in game 1 against Miami. Is in tremendous pain. John Morant, game 1, also hurt his hand, strained some ligaments. Tyler Hero, trying to break his fall, broke his hand, and he's out. So there's a lot of injuries going on in the NBA. Clippers are still missing Paul George. He hasn't even stepped on the court in about a month. He's still hurt. So
he's always hurt. He's like Kawhi Leonard at this point.
He is like Kawhi Leonard.
The reason why the Clippers try to go and get these guys is to make that super team, but it's been highly disappointing, especially Leonard, because we know what kind of defensive player, what kind of offensive player. He is a complete player when he could stay healthy, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And like you said, availability is the best ability, and it hasn't happened. And I got to say the Clippers are the most disappointing because you have George and Leonard, and they really haven't been able to play together or be consistent, and the Clippers have won basically nothing. So it's like throwing money in the wind at the end of the day.
And Kawhi was spectacular, dunking and actually blocking shots of Kevin Durant, snatching the ball, swinging around, and then driving up and dunking it on Durant on his own goal. I mean, he's been phenomenal, dazzling, the old Kawhi, but he got hurt. He had a little bit of rest, so we'll see when he comes back. Joel Embiid, yesterday he was out, twisted his knee. Giannis, again, he's out for game 4, so he'll be out tonight. Morant is back practicing with the team, so he should be back pretty soon. They need him in LA against the Lakers. Speaking of the Lakers, this is fun. I love players like this. This is a nice Pat Beverly replacement. Dylan Brooks.
Yes.
Dylan Brooks of the Memphis Grizzlies. I love it. So LeBron James, got his 4th foul, or Dylan got his 4th foul. And then James told him he was stupid or dumb for getting that 4th foul. He barked back at him. The press asked him about this, and Dylan Brooks basically said, I don't care. He's old. You know what I'm saying? And he said, but I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40. The Grizzlies won the game. By the way, that was game 2. They won at 103-93 over the Lakers. So It's 1-1 going into LA. Other basketball news, the wonderkind coach, Nick Nurse of the Toronto Raptors, who took them to the NBA championship in his rookie season, is out as coach. He has done very little since. He did get the Raptors to the playoffs again. Even this year, he got them to the playoffs, and they went out in the play-in. But he hasn't been able to get to the promised land. 390 and 227 record over his 5-year head coach experience. So, and they're talking about Ime Udoka, which is mentioned pretty much almost all job openings, who was suspended by the Celtics. He is a possible replacement for Nick Nurse. It's been a year. It's a new season. So it might be time for Ime to get back into the driver's seat with the team.
Yeah, good coach. The off the court stuff really overshadowed his success, and it was disappointing. So, but you may be right. It's been a year. It's a good move. Nick Nurse looks like he's headed to the Houston Rockets, and I think it's on the strength of having Kawhi Leonard ever since Leonard has left the Toronto Raptors. It is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, do coaches make a difference? Yes, to a certain degree, but it's more of a players' league. Superstars, especially players as a whole team. I mean, you have your cases out there. Greg Popovich, of course, Steve Kern, guys like that who could definitely get it done being a coach. But at the end of the day, it's about the players. So how will that all work out? We shall see. The Raptors definitely.
We shall see for sure.
Seem like they want to, turn the page here on Nurse. So we'll see how it all plays out, especially in the NBA playoffs. Going back to those injuries, Giannis, that's a loss. Hopefully it's not, something that's going to carry on here in the next series. But they are the most deep, and that would be the Milwaukee Bucks. And in fact, they're probably my favorite. And I still think even with Kevin Durant and the injury situation, Chris Paul not playing his best basketball because he's seen his best days, I still feel like we're going to be looking at here Milwaukee versus the Phoenix Suns. And I think a lot of people in the NBA especially want to see that matchup because to me, the two of the most deepest teams in the league, in my opinion. What do you say?
I agree. I know the Bucks are up 3-0. And Brooklyn is like they're not having too much of a, well, actually they did Miami did take one, so they're up 2-1. But I think they'll be able to dominate. Tailbone is a really rough injury that hurts. It is not cracked or fractured. They did do an MRI on it. So it's just a lot of soreness he's dealing with. And this is Giannis. He's one of the greatest players playing today. So I expect them to overcome and really, and Miami lost one of their big weapons in Tyler Hero. So they'll gut it out as best they can with Jimmy, but big face coffee Jimmy. But
that is a devastating blow. All right, let's talk about the NBA draft. Go ahead and pronounce this man's name because I don't want to get this kid's name wrong.
Okay, get ready for this because you're going to hear it a lot. Victor Wembanyama.
Victor
Wembanyama.
Yama.
He is playing in France. He's 7'3". He has an 8-foot wingspan. He will become the tallest and longest player in the NBA, and he is officially declared for the NBA draft this year. So he is coming. He is coming.
Well, he is coming at 7'3", 8-foot wingspan. A lot of people say he'll go number 1 overall. Let's say the Magic
absolutely
win that number 1 pick, because it's happened in the past. Do you take this guy with all the pieces that you got, even with the Bull, even with Wendell Clark there and Paulo Banchero? Do you take him? I mean, where do you think he ends up? A lot of people say the Houston Rockets. Is that the most natural place there? Could he end up there, in your opinion?
It's funny because a lot of people are saying San Antonio, down there with Popovich.
Wow.
Because they have one of the worst records in the league also. If it's the Magic, it's tough because you have a team that's growing and showing success. They're not at the top yet, but they have such a fantastic chemistry. I mean, you could trade that pick and get some value from it, some real value from it, and future picks, which I imagine them doing. I don't think they would take Wembanyama, but I would see. It depends on what they get, but I really think they would definitely be looking at some trades because they're pretty solid right now. They're almost there.
Well, my thing is, can he stay healthy? Can he put on size at the end of the day? Can he be a rim protector? But also, can he could definitely handle the ball. He could definitely shoot. Can he shoot consistently? I mean, that's what you have to do these days in the NBA. Far different from a big man. And it kind of reminds you of like Sean Bradley, right? I mean, he couldn't stay necessarily healthy. A lot of questions about his body size, but I think the NBA is very different these days. You got to be able to handle the ball, even being that big, and also be able to shoot threes. So we'll see how that plays out going forward with the NBA draft, as we don't know who's going to draft who, but the NBA lottery. And of course, it looks like the Magic may have 2 first-round picks. A very intriguing next couple months here for the Orlando Magic and for the NBA, especially with the playoffs. Final thoughts here on Timeout on 24 Flix.
Final thoughts. Wearing the shirt from the International Christian Film and Music Festival. This is a festival that I'm involved in, going on from May 3rd through 6th. We show over 150 films. There's over 30 seminars, Christian hip hop and R&B concert, an award show that we have so many awards. We had to divide it into 2. That's called, they labeled it the Christian Oscars, plus a Christian Oscars red carpet to go through it. It's 4 days in Orlando. Be sure to check it out, internationalcff.com. And thank you for your patience. We're popping in and out of different days to record this, but I think this is a good thing. And we're going to just keep doing what we do and giving people time out. That day to leave, they deserve. I can't talk like you. They deserve. How about that? Cut that, editor.
Absolutely. They deserve to be timed out. We all deserve to be timed out because we can't talk for some reason today. But of course, you got the NFL draft, you got the NBA playoffs, baseball going on right now in full swing. You like that little transition with the Tampa Bay Rays being now 17-3 in walk-off fashion last night against the Chicago White Sox, 8-7. An amazing story that's going on right now in the Tampa Bay area. We'll definitely have you covered with Tampa Bay Rays talk, with Major League Baseball talk. A great time of the year, and the NFL draft, once again, right around the corner. I'm ready for Thursday night. I can't wait to see what the Bucs do. Dolphins, not so much in the first round because they lost their pick. And of course, we'll see what Jacksonville does. We'll definitely recap it on the next edition of Timeout on 24 Flix. Like and subscribe. For my co-host here, Mr. Chris Cup, I'm your host, Peter Blake. Tune in again for another edition of Timeout, because you never know when you're going to get a timeout. See you next time.
See ya.